good day to members of the media and the listening public. As announced in November 2020, Bermuda's Labor Code, which consists of the Trade Union and Labor Relations Consolidation Act 2021 and the Employment Amendment Act 2021, will come into force 1st of June 2021. It will bring Bermuda in line with international best practices by strengthening the rights and obligations of employers and employees in Bermuda's labor force, modernizing and clarifying areas of existing legislation, and revising the labor disputes mechanism in Bermuda. The public will recall that the Trade Union and Labor Relations Consolidation Act 2021 is a consolidation of the Trade Union Act 1965, the Labor Relations Act 1975, and the Labor Disputes Act 1992. One of the most significant changes in this comprehensive and groundbreaking legislation is that the 10 tribunals and boards of inquiries will be streamlined and consolidated across all labor and employment legislation into one board known as the Employment and Labor Relations Tribunal. This tribunal will manage all employment complaints and labor-related disputes and is a significant improvement in our current state of affairs. Some of the significant amendments to the Employment Act 2000 include restricting probationary periods, allowing antenatal care before completion of 1 year of employment, extending bereavement leave to grandparents and grandchildren, mandating timely payments upon termination, clarifying independent contractor to protect an employee's rights, ensuring meal breaks throughout the workday, and mandating workplace policies against bullying and sexual harassment. I consider the mandating of policies against bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace as one of the major additions to the Employment Act 2000. It requires all employers to have a policy statement against bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace. This addition stemmed from 2019 when the International Labour Organization adopted the Violence and Sexual Harassment Convention 2019 and the Violence and Harassment Recommendation 2019, which outlines and reminds member states that they are responsible for promoting a general environment of zero tolerance towards any kind of harassment. Government has always held the protection of workers in the forefront of its agenda. In 2018, the then Minister responsible for Labor, the late Walton Brown, hosted international speaker Ms. Salami in Bermuda to discuss sexual harassment and sensitivity towards sexual orientation within the workplace. In 2018 and 19, the Ministry of Labor sent a tripartite delegation violence and harassment in the world of work. It was at this event that the ILO adopted the Violence and Harassment Convention and recommendations. In December 2020, the House of Assembly passed amendments to the Employment Act 2000, including providing a policy statement against bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace to align with international standards. In Bermuda, the prevalence of bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace is alarming. As also, many bullying and sexual harassment cases are not reported out of fear of retaliation, being ostracized or blacklisted, and the distress of recounting and reliving the trauma caused by the experience. The Human Rights Commission continues to do a tremendous work in this area. In their 2018 annual report, the section on discrimination reported 34% of their intake were for workplace harassment, which is the second highest, surpassed only by workplace discrimination. According to the Human Rights Commission 2019 annual report, discriminatory harassment and sexual harassment in the workplace together accounted for 33% of their intake. This amendment to the Employment Act 2000 signifies how necessary it is for employers to ensure that employees are allowed to work in an environment free of bullying and sexual harassment while also having the appropriate protocols in place to deal with such actions and demonstrating the zero tolerance approach that all employers should have to bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace. Effective 1st of June 2021, employers will be required to have a zero tolerance policy statement for bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace and recourse for employees for any contravention of this policy. The Ministry of Labor will assist employers by providing employers with template policy statements for their businesses if required. All employees must be presented with the policy statement, and the employer is to help ensure employees understand it. Any employer who contravenes this requirement will be liable to a civil penalty imposed by the Ministry Labor Relations Manager or the Employment and Labor Tribunal. Policies are an effective step to mitigate the occurrence of violence and harassment in the workplace. We must all work towards eradicating unacceptable behaviors, including bullying and sexual harassment, from the world of work. These amendments are a start, but ultimately it is our responsibility to treat everyone fairly, with respect, and with dignity. Thank you. At this time, I welcome questions from the media.
Afternoon, sir. Thanks for having us. I guess to start with. Oh, there we go. My apologies. Thank you. Afternoon, sir, and thank you for having us down here. I guess to start with, how quickly should employers expect to have the policies in place? Does it become effective right on June 1st, or is there a grace period to draw up the policies?
So employers have already had a 6-month grace period
Okay.
since the legislation was actually passed in the House. And so within the coming weeks, we will be ensuring that we send those policy templates out to any employer that requests them.
Got it. As I recall, once the legislation got passed in the House, the unions said they supported it, but there was also talk of I believe some regulations that they were hoping to have tweaked in it. We were never exactly clear on what was going to be potentially altered. I guess, can you tell us a bit about that and how that negotiation with the unions over the legislation went?
So I wouldn't consider it a negotiation. There was to be clarity around the decertification process. I have had meetings with the unions, ongoing meetings with the unions regarding the decertification process, and we'll continue to have meetings with the union to ensure that we are on the same page regarding who should be able to participate in decertification ballots.
Do you, can you tell us a bit more about that and when hopefully that will be finished with? It seemed initially that it wasn't super well received when we had a press conference up at the BIU.
Certainly the unions have a view as to what is in their best interest as the representatives of workers, and the government has a view as to how do we believe that policies should be fair and equitable within the workplace.
Is the decertification discussion, is that complete now, or is that still ongoing?
The ministry has made its position clear to the unions, and we are continuously having discussions surrounding those points.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from the media? Okay, thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.